Often people come to a Waldorf school, they see the kindergarten, and they have an immediate reaction to the feeling. It's warm, it's inviting, it's comforting, and there's no conversation. It's, yes, I want this for my child.
The youngest children at our school, they come from the playgroup. And when I'm teaching them, I always remind myself that I'm teaching to their will, that they're totally active in their doing, and that they have an amazing capacity and ability to imitate. So I have to remember that every gesture I make, every word I say, everything that I do has to be really permeated with purposefulness and kind of a sense of grace.
One of the things I love the most about Waldorf education is the fact that it developmentally meets the children every step along the way. That in early childhood, it's almost like there's curtains wrapped around the child. So you're in a little house and there are beautiful rosy curtains and the children are playing inside. And then when they get into the grades, the curtains are opened and they can look out and meet the world. And then when they get into high school, they step out. And I can't tell you how true it is. That having a curriculum that allows them to feel engaged and to love what they do every step along the way is phenomenal.
Waldorf education is unique in that we utilize a rhythm, and that allows them to feel safe and be relaxed. And by having that same rhythm day after day after day, they always know what to expect. They know what's coming next, and they don't have to anticipate what's coming. So it allows them to really relax, which means that they're actually learning. Things are coming in and able to go into a deep place.
A lot of how we teach, or a lot of what we teach, is who we are, really. And so when I'm teaching, I am always trying to be the best person I can be. I'm trying to be present, especially with the little ones. I'm trying to be totally honest, especially with the older ones. And, I'm always trying to be funny.
The handshake is so neat because you're collecting all these little members out of our community, and they come in and they make eye contact with you. And you feel their hand. Is it warm? Is it cold? Do they look worried? And it's just so great because that's when I meet them as individuals, even when they're little. And then later on, they're a class. They sit in front of me as a group. So it's nice. And at the end of the day, I sort of release them back to their lives by shaking hands again. It's really pretty fantastic. I love the handshake.
I've been their teacher since some of them were in pre-K, and otherwise most of this group has been together since first grade, so I've known them for a long time. And I think I know them really well, but I'm also always seeing new things in them, and I can't stick them into a box of who they were one year versus who they are the next year. So even though I know them really well, they are an unopened present all the time. You know, they're always someone new.
When you say, how do you teach? It's like to have really, like you're on a trip every day. You're on an overall big exploration trip. And each year, that trip looks a little bit different because each year you have your subject that you're gonna learn. You have your curriculum, you have your themes that meet the children that they're interested in, that make sense to them at that time. And each year we're going to a different country in a way. But each year we're on that travel together. And it really is, even at the day when I go home, every day has been totally new ideas come in my head, totally new things show up, and it transforms the next day's trip.
When I came here with my husband, we did a tour, and one of the things that we were both really struck by, and really what sort of sealed the deal for us, was we went into a 7th grade class. And this is a year that can be very difficult in adolescence. And they were so kind to one another. They really had a lovely way of being with one another. There was just something really genuine about them. So we make what we call main lesson books. You sort of create a page or two on everything that you've learned that day and all the things that you find most important. So that can be a drawing or a write-up or an essay or something.
And basically by putting something down on paper yourself, creating your own version of what you just learned, you take in all this information, then you reproduce it in your own way. That's really how you learn deeply, and you don't just memorize facts for a test.
When you're doing it at home, when you're doing it by yourself, you've been in the class and you know what happens. But then when you're recreating it, you can intertwine some of your own thoughts and what you think about it. And it helps you realize what you understood, what you didn't understand. And you really have a place where you can see what you know and everything that you need to know. Then helps you remember it longer than just for the class.
It's almost like the difference between learning something for a test and actually having to teach it to somebody else. That you might think that you have something clear when you're following someone else doing it, and then when you actually have to put that into your own words, it's sort of like teaching it. And we all know that when you have to teach something, oh boy, do you learn.
So then I also teach Russian literature in the high school. And while the youngest children learn through their doing, the oldest children learn through their thinking. They learn academically. And what's great about teaching Russian literature to the 12th graders is that the Russian writers are really dealing with big problems. Problems like, is it possible for God and love to coexist? That's one of the big topics that Dostoevsky brings up. He also talks a lot about human suffering and how that in a world created by God, how can there be so much suffering? I mean, these are great big questions that the 12th graders are really dealing with and that they're taking out into the world, where they're wondering, what is it that I'm gonna do in the world? What do I have to bring?
What's beneficial about K through 12 is that you've had the child in this whole spectrum, and finally the thinking realm is coming in a strong way for the high school. And it's the capstone of everything that's come before. So everything that has been finely cultivated and carefully cared for now can go in a deep, deep way through thinking. And I often think it's unfortunate to go all the way through 8th grade and then miss that last final step with faculty that are there to cultivate the best of what's inside of you, because it really is setting the head on top of the body. It's what's really finishing the whole picture of the human being.
An extraordinary thing that happens in the high school is when students do something that is uncomfortable for them or something that they're not naturally drawn to, and then they are successful and they surprise themselves, and it's also really exciting to see how they surprise their classmates who may not have ever known that they had that in them. That's an exciting thing to see.
That's true. And it happens often in eurythmy too. They lift themselves to a level where they are totally different. They like overcoming themselves and showing something really beautiful.
We've done plays since 1st grade. Every single year we've done plays, lots of public speaking. I'm naturally a really shy person actually, but just through all of that exercise that we've done every single year, I've kind of come to the point where I can speak in front of a group of people or a crowd of people or anything. It's actually become one of my favorite things.
Waldorf has shown me so many different fields that I'm interested in because it's such a unique thing about the high school. You get to take classes that you would never normally take. For me, I like science and math, but because I've gone to Waldorf, I love art. I love the plays, I love monologues. One of my favorite blocks throughout high school was constitutional law, and super difficult class, a lot of work, but it's really satisfying to do. So I think that Waldorf teaches you how to work through problems, and it's more of a critical thinking thing versus the facts that you learn. Which, don't get me wrong, we have the facts. We learn the facts in high school. But the way that I can approach a problem now, say I don't know anything about a subject, I'm still willing to try things out and figure out how to do it.
You gotta wanna learn. A lot of my professors tell me the same thing. If you go to college just to go to college because everybody else is doing it, you might not drop out, but you're not getting out of it what you need to get out of it. I mean, you gotta go with this mindset of, I'm here to learn, I want to learn. and really kind of just see what you are learning almost as like an extension of yourself. I mean, I feel like that's one of the most beneficial things coming from here is you really get this almost like hunger to learn, but also to like internalize what you're really learning, not just spew it out and then, you know, forget it in a month or so once the test is over.
There really is something to be said about doing what you love. And so when you're exposed to all of these different things, having to do all these different subjects that maybe you wouldn't have been interested in or maybe you wouldn't have done otherwise, really gives you the opportunity to find something you're really passionate about and then pursue that.
The compulsory education is really what gives them this acceptance of the differences among other people, and I think it's just a tremendous gift. It's one of the things that I think is most powerful about the education that we have here.
Waldorf is training students how to be critical thinkers and actually respond to individual situations, regardless of what content is in them. This isn't a quote from me necessarily, I'm paraphrasing somebody else, but like, we don't know the jobs of the future, but Waldorf can teach you how to be ready for any job, regardless of what field you go into.
I felt very prepared, especially for the workload. It's the kind of work that I got used to doing here. Kind of, you know, we're gonna delve into the, you know, basic, shallow area in lecture, and then once you go home, you really gotta read the book, look up stuff on your own, and really dive deep. And that's kind of what it was always here, you know, this idea of, you know, really going in deep and understanding the actual concept and not just how to apply it.
My favorite part of every single day would be having the genuine interactions with my teachers, the genuine interactions with my friends.
I feel like everyone here is treated like an individual and that the education is so specific to who you are, how we can help you grow, not just academically, but you know, mentally, emotionally, and all those things.
If someone needs to be challenged a little bit more than someone else, like they can throw in that extra challenge, but if also someone needs a little bit more time or some more help, they can, you know, take that into consideration. The teachers can really get to know every single student.
There's also something to be said about growing through your childhood and through your adolescent years into an adult. There's something really special about, you know, figuring out who you are through other people knowing who you are.
We can always like rely on them to like know how you feel. You can always lean on them, and your friends are always willing to help you. You just feel like a certain like strength and just like legitimate love coming from everybody.
It's already awesome when you have like one best friend, but then when your whole class is like your best friends, it's pretty amazing.
When you know someone for that long, it's kind of like, even if you don't think that they are, they kind of are, because you're around them almost as much as you're around your own family.
Yeah, I think one of the most positive things about knowing somebody and going to school with them for so long is that you kind of innately build like a sort of friendship where it's okay for you to get mad at each other, and it's okay for, you know, frustration to kind of boil over, because you know each other so well. In the sense, it's like a brother. You just let it go, and the next day it is what it is. And what? I don't remember that. Oh yeah, that's true, huh? Like, you kind of just let it go.
Yeah, it's like a family. Overall, everyone kind of knows, like, we're all here to support each other.
They become different people, I think, coming through this education. They stand out.
By the time they get to the end of grade 12, I haven't yet seen a parent that wasn't just bursting with pride. It's just such an enormous gift back to their parents. That's why the parents stay and keep flocking to Waldorf education. It offers something much more than just knowledge.
They grow so much, and Camille, I know through the monologue, she grew as a person so much, like just her awareness of the world, her awareness of other people's perspective, and just what it takes to be on your own on a stage and perform for 15 minutes. I mean, all these things were so hard for her, but at the end, she was so lit up and she was so confident in what she accomplished.
You know, my little second graders, there's so much they're still gonna do, but with 11th graders, you can start seeing a bit of that adult they're gonna become. or what they're going to be bringing in a different way. We have all of those shared travels, and even though you don't have to be in each other's lives that way, they're always in here. They're definitely in my heart. It's nice.